What's up, you guys? So today's video is going to be a video centered all around hair scrambles and enduros. Why not talk about that video topic? Am I right? So I want to preface this video because I'm sure I'll get a lot of people being like, no, I don't think that's right. About what my experience is with hair scrambles and with enduros, what our Florida Trail Riders series does, and what I like about them, what I don't like about them, what the main differences are, and anything else that comes to mind. I literally made a list where I decided to sit down and film the video, so let's jump into it. So typically a hair scramble course is going to be a closed off course, and you are racing to be timed. The fastest person wins. It's that straightforward and that easy. So I'm gonna get into this at a later point in the video about the differences in starting in hair scrambles and in starts with enduros. So with hair scrambles, your start is pretty normal in the sense that you line up with your class designation on the same line. So based on your designation, class A, B, and C, A being the fastest, double A being pro, you line up on the same line. Somebody says go, and you're racing for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then when it comes to GNCC, which I guess could technically be a hair scramble, even though it's cross-country racing. Anyway, in that series, you're racing for close to 3 hours. And the fastest person in your class to do as many laps as they can on this closed-off course wins. So even though you're lined up with your class on the starting grid, you are racing against your class, but there's also other classes that are racing during your time period. And I don't exactly remember the minute spacing. Let's say, for example, it's 2 minutes between each class going after row. There's, let's say, 12 rows in a hair scramble. That's a lot of people. Imagine at least, 5 to 10 people in each class. And for other classes, I mean, they're huge. And then the non-competitive classes could be even bigger, like 40, 50, 60 sportsmen in a single class. So what I'm trying to get at is that there's a lot of people out on the track at the same time that you're out on the track too. So everybody is racing against time. It's very competitive, and it's very competitive. In FTR, we have a Saturday and a Sunday course. Sunday course is usually for A riders. Saturday course is a little bit more laid back. Saturday also includes a quad course because we run a quad class in our series. Main points to take away from hair scrambles is that they're usually shorter, 30-ish miles, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter. You're racing head-to-head against people, and the fastest person wins. Now in enduros, this is gonna be a toughie. Enduros are usually on an open course, and you're racing against the time. Yes, you are being timed, but you're trying to beat the clock. We said hair scrambles are usually 30 miles. Enduros are much longer. They're 60 to 80 miles, and instead of them being 2-ish hours, they are usually 4-ish hours. Sometimes even 5 if you're a little slow. And the slower you are, the longer it's going to take you to complete the enduro. So could even take you like 6-ish hours. My first enduro took me a long time. Most enduros are single track, whereas hair scrambles can be on quad trail. And in enduros, you obviously ride longer, so you get more seat time, which could be a pro or a con to some people. Some enduros, you also get a lunch break. Let's say you are meeting time right halfway through the race, you get a break. Whereas in hair scrambles, you are not getting any breaks in those 2 hours that you're racing. Scrambles, you also have a designated pit area where you can pull over from the track to get gas. The last couple enduros that I've done, I've gotten to the lunch break on time, so I've had plenty of time to gas up as well. Otherwise, they do have an auxiliary car or truck that takes around gas tanks as well. I should specify that. your own gas tank. So in the morning, you have to find the auxiliary truck, you put your own gas tank on that truck. You can't just stop them at any mile. They meet everyone at a specific mile because it's not just your gas tank that they're carrying. Enduros are also divided into different tests, and there's typically 6 of them. The Kendall Full Sprint Enduro, they have 2 tests. They have a width test and a cross test. A Sprint Enduro in FTR could have, I don't know, 3 tests, and then you do those same 3 tests again, doing them twice to get all of your mileage in. Have transfer sections as well, and these transfer sections are not timed. Now let's talk about how different enduro starts are compared to harescrambles. So in a harescramble, you're lined up with your whole class on the same line. Well, in an enduro, you're lined up with different classes all together. So there's usually 3 to 4 people to a row, and you can pre-register and request to be on a same row as one of your friends. What I mean by that is if me and Jacob and my dad want to race together, Jacob is a AA rider, I'm with a fast guy on the same line. If we request to be on the same line together, we can be. Or if I want to be on the same line as my dad, who raced Silver Master B, I can also be on the same line as him. So we're always going to get to a checkpoint, hopefully, around the same time, and we'll kind of get to see each other throughout the day, even though we're not racing against each other. Kind of common courtesy that if you are on a row with a faster person, they will always go in front of you. So let's say, like I use the example of my dad, myself, and Jacob being the fastest rider, you would let him go first. However, in a sprint enduro, this is where it gets kind of confusing. You are going off one person at a time. So instead of going 3 or 4 people to a row, you're now going one person at a time. Another thing is that in enduros, you're assigned a number. So normally I get to choose my number, right? Number 68, that's the number that I'm married to. But in enduros, you choose whatever row you want to be on if you pre-enter, or you're assigned a row, and you have to go off of that row number for the rest of the day. So let's say I get assigned row number 2. The race starts at 9. I would go off at 9:02. Now, because in enduros, we're all spaced out a minute behind one another, there's only 3 to 4 people out on the track at the same minute that you go out at. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in a harescramble, you're racing against your class, and there could be 100 people out on the trail with you, or different classes can catch up to you, and you're kind of, all scattered all over the place. Whereas enduros, it's way more laid back. If you're a slower rider, a faster guy from a row behind you can catch you, but they'll pass you, and you probably won't see them again until the next checkpoint. I think for that reason alone is why I prefer the laid-back atmosphere of an enduro over a harescramble. It's just, in my eyes, way safer. The goal is just to get to a check at the same time, so you do not miss your row. Okay, let's say you're going a little too slow. You will be penalized for going too slow, but you won't be penalized for going too fast. Enduros, the person with the lowest time in each test wins. So like I said, enduros are kind of fizzling out in Florida. Also, they don't have kids classes. I think they just introduced a schoolboy class recently, and they don't have any quad classes. So no, you will never see a quad at an enduro, and you also won't see peewees at enduros, which is sad, but that's also kind of a reason why to like them more. So some sections are scored by the minute, and some sections are scored by the second. Typically on an enduro course, the terrain is going to be a lot harder. You're going to have harder obstacles, trees, drops, that kind of stuff, whereas in a harescramble, you got to think that kids have to be able to run the same course on a hare scramble as an adult. So obviously the enduro course is going to be harder, a lot harder than your typical hare scramble. Let's say a club doesn't have enough land to run a full enduro. They can also run a sprint enduro, which we have seen happen many times. So they'll be doing, you know, 3-4 tests depending on the length of those tests twice. And it's very similar to the full sprint enduro, but you just don't have a cross and a woods test. It's basically all woods. However, for all the enduros, I do have to say that one of the major downfalls is the commuting time. We don't have a lot of enduros in Florida. I think there's only, what, 3 or 4 now that are left. Maybe 4 is even too much. We have to drive out of state to be able to ride an enduro. So we go to South Carolina, we go to Alabama, and because our series doesn't have enough land, we coordinate with other series like the Seacher series to co-sanction events. I think I'm going to wrap up the video with my last point of just saying enduros are all around less crowded because they are not very spectator friendly. Let's say you bring your motorhome out and you want your family to hang out all weekend with you or all day with you, whatever. They're only probably going to see you during the lunch break and then not see you until the end of the race. Whereas in a hare scramble, we see you all weekend other than maybe those 2 hours that you're racing. And some hare scrambles are super spectator friendly, so they'll be able to sit on the sideline and see you come through a section of the track. They're just far more remote, you know? Anyway, that wraps up the video. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section below, or don't. That's just fine too. And I'll catch you next time. Bye.